Hello, and welcome to Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk more about one of the executive actions that President Biden has done regarding asylum. He's done so many of them since he took office. It's just unbelievable. That within 1 week he's undone the vast majority of the bad policies that Trump had. But this particular one deals with asylum. And let me tell you the way that it used to be. You would walk into the United States, whether you had a visa or not. Let's say you didn't have one. You'd walk in and you would tell them that you fear for your life, that you're being persecuted. You would then be detained, but then an asylum officer would come and give you a credible fear interview. And sometimes it wasn't even an asylum officer, but at least you'd get a credible fear interview where it would be determined whether or not you actually feared going back to your home country and whether it fell under the provisions allowing for asylum. If that was the case, you would either remain in detention or, more times than not, they would parole you into the United States and then send you information when your asylum hearing in front of the judge would be. That was the way that it used to be. Now, when Trump started, making everything more difficult for immigrants and instituting policies that had no law behind them, those were in place for some time. One of them was called a Remain in Mexico policy. Now, imagine what I just said used to happen, where somebody comes into the U.S., whether it's from Central America or Mexico or wherever it is, and they're trying to get asylum. What Trump had is that if they passed the credible fear interview, that they would not be paroled into the United States. They would not be in a detention facility. They would be returned to Mexico. It was return to Mexico policy. It's crazy that someone applying for asylum and showed they had credible fear of persecution was forced to stay in Mexico until the court date was set and until they were notified. So as of to this day, there's a bunch of people in Mexico who are waiting for their court date to come back to the U.S. to apply for asylum. And it doesn't matter where they have to go. It doesn't matter the persecution they further had to suffer. None of that mattered to Trump. And there was nothing in the law that said when someone has to apply or is coming to the U.S. to apply for asylum, that they have to wait in Mexico in which to apply. So the reason I bring all this history is because President Biden issued an executive order ending the Remain in Mexico policy. That if somebody comes to the U.S. and they're going to actually apply for asylum and pass the credible fear interview, they will have an opportunity in which to fight their case. And whether it's in detention and they apply for bond and get out, or whether they are paroled into the United States, they are not going to be forced to go to Mexico to stay for their asylum hearings in the U.S. In conjunction with that, there was a bunch of secret immigration courts, or tent courts they called them, on the border, where they ran cases, and nobody was allowed in. Nobody knew what was going on. It was clearly a institution that was not democratic. So I'm quite certain that those are going to change as well. Additionally, it looks like today President Biden is going to sign an executive order to increase again the amount of refugees that can come into the U.S. What Trump had done is he slashed them to basically nothing. And a refugee from all over the world was looking to the U.S. as a beacon of hope, a second chance, a way to get away from their persecution. And Trump didn't care. He just with the stroke of his pen slashed the vast majority of refugees who could come into the United States, put up an invisible wall around, and basically said, "You're not welcome here. Don't even try." Well, that's not who the U.S. is. And so President Biden is switching that back, and I don't know what number he's going to give. I don't even know if it'll get back up to what it was, but at least it's going to go in the right direction where the U.S. will welcome people with open arms who are applying for refugee status and have shown that they are displaced and that they have suffered persecution in their home country. The reason the U.S. has asylum law is for the very purpose to allow foreign nationals to come into the U.S. to apply for asylum, or if they're refugees, they already got refugee status, and then they can come in to the U.S. on that basis. Okay? So lots of good news on the immigration front. Okay, if you like the video, click like, subscribe, and more in the coming weeks. Thank you.